In a bustling city called Orilon, known for its lively markets and bright lights, there lived a young man named Kito. At first glance, Kito looked like someone who had faced the harshest blows of life. His tattered clothes hung loosely on his lean frame, and his hair, unkempt and dust-covered, gave him the appearance of someone long forgotten by the world. His face carried a permanent expression of sadness, and his eyes, though weary, held a glimmer of something no one could quite place. Kito didn't always live like this. He grew up in the small town of Ajora, a quiet place where life moved slowly, and everyone knew everyone. His parents, humble farmers, taught him the value of hard work. But tragedy struck when Kito was just 12 years old. His father fell gravely ill, and their farm, the only source of livelihood, withered away. After his father's passing, his mother struggled to make ends meet, but even her best efforts couldn't keep the family afloat. When she too passed away, Kito was left with nothing but memories and the clothes on his back. The city of Orilon became his escape. He arrived there with hope, believing that a place so full of life would offer him a chance to start over. But Orilon was not as kind as he had imagined. Without money or connections, Kito found himself on the streets, reduced to begging for survival. Over time, he became a familiar face at the city's busiest intersections, stretching out his hand to passers-by with a voice soft and full of sorrow. "Please help me," he would say. "Even just a little. I have nothing." The people of Orilon couldn't help but feel sorry for him. His story, though simple, touched hearts. Parents would nudge their children to give Kito a coin or two, whispering, "Always be kind to those in need." Market women, shop owners, and even the bus drivers made it a habit to toss spare change his way. Kito became somewhat of a fixture in the city, a reminder of the hardships life could bring and the importance of charity. But behind Kito's sorrowful eyes and trembling voice was a secret so dark that if the people of Orilon knew, they would recoil in terror. Kito was no ordinary beggar. His desperate pleas and pitiable demeanor were nothing more than a mask, a carefully crafted disguise to hide his true intentions. For every coin placed in his hand, Kito didn't just take their money, he took a piece of their destiny. It started years ago, on a night when Kito, cold and hungry, stumbled into an abandoned house at the edge of the city. Inside, he found an old man sitting by a flickering lantern, his face shadowed and his voice low. The man introduced himself as Tani, a mystic who saw through Kito's sorrow and offered him a deal. "You have been dealt an unfair hand," Tani said. "But what if I told you that you could rise above your misfortune? That you could take control of your life and never suffer again?" Kito, desperate and broken, listened intently. The old man explained that there was a way, a ritual that could grant him power beyond his imagination. All Kito had to do was give something small in return, a bit of kindness from strangers, willingly given. "But it is not their money you will take," Tani warned. "It is their essence, their very destiny. With every act of charity, they will grow weaker, and you will grow stronger." At first, Kito hesitated. The idea of taking from others, even in such an indirect way, felt wrong. But the memory of his parents' struggles, his own hunger and despair, clouded his judgment. He agreed, and under the old man's guidance, performed the ritual. From that night on, Kito's life changed. Though he still appeared ragged and destitute, he no longer felt the sting of hunger or the ache of cold. He noticed his body growing stronger, his mind sharper. And as his power grew, he began to sense the changes in those who helped him. A once vibrant market woman suddenly fell ill and couldn't walk. A young boy who gave him his last coin started failing in school. Bit by bit, the city of Orilon seemed to dim, its people losing the spark that once made them thrive. But no one suspected Kito. To them, he was just the poor beggar they had always known, a symbol of misfortune and resilience. And so, they continued to give, unaware of the price they were paying. One day, as Kito sat at his usual spot near the central market, a woman named Ada stopped in front of him. Ada was different from the others. She was new to Orilon, having recently moved from another city. Her smile was warm, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Why do you sit here every day?" she asked, her voice kind but firm. Kito looked up, surprised. Most people didn't stop to talk, they simply gave and moved on. I have no one, he said, his voice trembling. No family, no home. Ada studied him for a moment, then reached into her bag and handed him a loaf of bread instead of money. Here, she said. Eat this. But tell me, why do you look so strong if you are so hungry? Her words struck a nerve, and for a brief moment, Kito's mask slipped. He quickly recovered, lowering his gaze and muttering a thank you. But Ada didn't leave. She knelt beside him, her expression thoughtful. I've seen beggars before, she said, her voice low so only he could hear. But you, there's something different about you. Kito felt a chill run down his spine. He forced a smile and shook his head. I don't know what you mean. Ada didn't press further that day, but Kito couldn't shake the feeling that she saw through him. As the days passed, she returned to the market, always watching him from a distance, her gaze unwavering. And then, strange things began to happen. People who had fallen ill started to recover. The city's energy seemed to shift, as if something, or someone, was undoing the damage Kito had caused. For the first time since he made his deal with Tani, Kito felt fear. Who was Ada? And what did she want? As the days turned into weeks, Kito couldn't ignore Ada's presence. She would come to the market every morning, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on him. She didn't always approach, sometimes she simply watched from afar, her expression unreadable. Other times, she brought him small gifts, a bottle of water, a piece of fruit, or a warm blanket on a cold morning. But no matter what she gave, she never gave him money. Her kindness unsettled him. It wasn't like the pity he was used to from others. Ada seemed to be searching for something, as if she knew there was more to him than met the eye. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the market began to quiet, Kito decided to confront her. He couldn't risk her prying any further. He stood from his usual spot, clutching the few coins he had collected that day, and followed her as she made her way down a narrow alley behind the market. Ada, he called out, his voice echoing against the walls. She stopped and turned, her face calm but curious. Yes, Kito. Why do you keep coming here? He asked, his voice sharper than he intended. Why do you watch me? Ada tilted her head, her gaze steady. Because I know there's more to you than you let people see, she said simply. You're not like the others who beg on the streets. There's a weight around you. A shadow. Kito felt his chest tighten. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, forcing a laugh. I'm just a beggar trying to survive. Ada stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I've seen what happens to the people who help you. The market woman who gave you her last loaf of bread, she's bedridden now. The young boy who shared his school lunch with you, he's been having nightmares and failing his exams. It's not a coincidence, Kito. Something is wrong. Kito's heart pounded in his chest. He opened his mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Ada's gaze bore into him, and for the first time in years, he felt truly exposed. I don't know what you think you've seen, he said finally, his voice trembling. But I didn't do anything to those people. I didn't ask for their help, they gave it willingly. Ada nodded slowly, as if she had expected his answer. Maybe you didn't ask, she said. But you took more than they gave. And I want to know why. Kito's mind raced. How could she possibly know? Was she just guessing, or had she discovered the truth? Either way, he couldn't let her dig any deeper. You don't understand, he said, his voice low and urgent. You don't know what it's like to have nothing. To be nothing. I didn't choose this life. Ada's expression softened, but her resolve didn't waver. Maybe not, she said. But you have a choice now, Kito. You can stop this. Whatever it is you're doing, you can end it. Her words struck a chord deep within him, a faint echo of the guilt he had buried long ago. But before he could respond, a sudden gust of wind swept through the alley, carrying with it a faint, chilling whisper. She knows too much. Kito froze, his blood running cold. The voice was familiar, Tani. The old mystic had warned him that this day might come, that someone might uncover his secret. And now, it seemed, Tani was watching. Ada's eyes widened as the wind grew stronger, whipping her hair around her face. "What's happening?" she demanded, her voice rising over the roar of the wind. Kito backed away, panic gripping him. "You need to leave," he said, his voice barely audible. "Now." But Ada didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer, her hand reaching out to him. "Kito, whatever is happening, we can face it together. You don't have to do this alone." Her words cut through the chaos, and for a moment, Kito felt a flicker of hope. But then, the wind died down as suddenly as it had started, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. "You've made a mistake," the voice hissed, though it seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. "And now, you will pay the price." Before Kito could react, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness of the alley. It was Tani, his face hidden beneath the hood of a tattered cloak. His presence seemed to suck the warmth from the air, leaving only a bone-chilling cold. "Who is this?" Tani demanded, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Ada. "Why does she meddle in things that do not concern her?" Ada stood her ground, her chin held high. "I could ask you the same question," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "What have you done to Kito? What kind of power have you given him?" Tani let out a low, menacing laugh. "Power? You think this is power? This boy is nothing without me. He begged for my help, and I gave it to him. But now, he has forgotten who he serves." Kito felt a wave of shame wash over him. He had always known that his deal with Tani came with strings attached, but he hadn't realized just how tightly those strings were wound. "I didn't ask for this," he said, his voice shaking. "You tricked me." Tani's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "Tricked you? No, boy. I saved you. And this is how you repay me." By letting her interfere. Ada stepped between them, her posture defiant. "He doesn't belong to you," she said. "Whatever hold you have on him, it ends now." Tani's laughter echoed through the alley, cold and cruel. "You are brave, little one. But bravery alone will not save you." Without warning, Tani raised his hand, and the shadows around him began to writhe and twist, reaching out toward Ada like dark tendrils. Kito watched in horror as the shadows closed in, their inky blackness threatening to consume her. "No," he shouted, stepping forward. "Leave her alone." Tani turned to him, his expression a mixture of amusement and disdain. "And what will you do, boy? You have no power without me." But Kito felt something stir within him, a spark of defiance, a glimmer of the person he used to be before his life was consumed by desperation and darkness. He clenched his fists, his jaw set. "I won't let you hurt her," he said, his voice steady. "Not anymore." Tani's laughter echoed through the alley, chilling Kito to the core. The shadows writhed menacingly, inching closer to Ada. Kito clenched his fist, his heart pounding as he realized he couldn't let this continue, not Ada's life, not his own, and not the countless others who had suffered because of his choices. Kito took a step forward, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "You're right, Tani. I have no power without you. But I still have one thing left, my will." Tani paused, his shadowy tendrils halting midair. "Will," he sneered. "Will doesn't save anyone. Power does. And you, boy, have none." But Kito ignored him. He turned to Ada, who stood frozen, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. "Ada," he said softly, "I'm sorry. For everything. You were right, this has to end. And I'm the only one who can stop it." "What are you doing?" Ada asked, her voice trembling. "Kito, don't." But Kito had already made up his mind. He turned back to Tani, his gaze unwavering. "You said I asked for this, and you were right. I let my pain and anger blind me. I thought taking from others would fill the emptiness inside me, but all it did was make me into a monster. I don't want this anymore." Tani's expression darkened, his voice low and menacing. You cannot walk away from this. The deal was sealed. Your soul is mine. Kito stepped closer to Tani, his fear replaced by a growing resolve. Then take it, he said. Take my soul, my life, whatever you want. But release the others. Give them back what you took through me. Tani's eyes gleamed with fury. You would give up your power for them. These people who pitied you, who gave you scraps to keep themselves feeling righteous. They never cared about you. They didn't deserve what I did to them, Kito said firmly. And neither do I deserve their forgiveness. But I can make it right. The shadows around Tani surged, growing darker and more volatile. You fool, he hissed. You think you can bargain with me? You are nothing. Kito closed his eyes, his voice steady. I may be nothing, but I choose to be better than you. With that, Kito fell to his knees, bowing his head. He felt a cold, suffocating weight settle over him as Tani's power reached out, clawing at his very soul. But even as the pain tore through him, Kito held on to one thought: freedom. Freedom for Ada. Freedom for the people of Orilon. A blinding light erupted from within Kito, so intense that it forced Tani to stagger back, his shadows recoiling in agony. Kito felt his body grow lighter, his burdens lifting as if a heavy chain had been broken. The light spread, pushing Tani's darkness away until the alley was bathed in its brilliance. When the light faded, Tani was gone. The alley was silent, the shadows no longer riding but still. Ada rushed to Kito's side, her hands shaking as she knelt beside him. Kito, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. What just happened? Kito looked up at her, his face pale but peaceful. I gave him what he wanted, he said softly. And in doing so, I took away his power. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Ada's eyes filled with tears. But what about you? Kito smiled faintly. I think it's time for me to rest. As he spoke, a warm glow enveloped him, and Ada realized with a start that the glow wasn't coming from the light in the alley, it was coming from within Kito himself. Slowly, his body began to fade, dissolving into tiny, shimmering specks of light that drifted upward like fireflies. No, Ada said, her voice breaking. You can't leave. There's so much more you can do. Kito's voice was faint but steady. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is let go. The light swirled around Ada, filling her with a sense of peace and hope. She watched as the last of Kito's light disappeared into the night sky, leaving behind a calm silence. The next morning, the people of Orilon woke to find the city transformed. The sick were healed, the weary felt renewed, and the market buzzed with energy it hadn't seen in years. No one could explain the sudden change, but Ada knew. She stood in the middle of the bustling market, looking up at the clear blue sky. You gave them back their destinies, Kito, she whispered. And in doing so, you found your own. As the sun rose higher, its light shining brightly over Orilon, Ada felt a quiet resolve take root in her heart. She didn't know where life would take her next, but she knew one thing for certain: she would honor Kito's sacrifice by living with purpose and compassion, spreading the light he had left behind. And so, though Kito's story came to an end, his legacy lived on, in the hearts of the people he had saved, and in the hope that no matter how dark life may seem, there is always a way to choose the light. And so my viewers, what lesson did you learn from this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, share and kindly subscribe, and please turn on the notification bell so you can get notification anytime I upload interesting, inspired and true life stories video like this. See you in my next video.